Hi, this is Marsha.
And this is Kelly.
We are the Two Ewes of Two Ewes Fiber Adventures. Thanks for stopping by.
You'll hear about knitting, spinning, dyeing, crocheting, and just about anything else we can think of as a way to play with string.
We blog and post show notes at twoewesfiberadventures.com.
And we invite you to join our Two Ewes Fiber Adventures group on Ravelry. I'm 100 Projects.
And I am Better in Motion.
We're both on Instagram and Ravelry, and we look forward to meeting you there.
Enjoy the episode. Hi, Kelly.
Hey, Marsha. How's it going?
Pretty good.
Good. I'm back.
Smoky here in Seattle.
It's smoky here, too, today. We haven't had it the last few days. It's been there, but maybe you couldn't notice because it was foggy. Today the sun's out, but I can't see Mount Toro.
I guess you're affected by the fires in California.
Mm-hmm.
And we're affected by the fires in eastern Washington and then also coming down from British Columbia.
Right. Well, basically the whole West Coast is on fire.
Yeah, that's true.
And then my sister is in Hawaii, where it's now been downgraded to a Category 4, but they're working their way to a Category 4 hurricane.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, I feel very fortunate. I'm not even complaining about the smoke because of all the other disasters that are going on everywhere.
Yeah, that's true. But this is, I mean, I don't ever remember this happening before other than last summer was the first time I remember having all the smoke from fires.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been announcing like people, you shouldn't be outside.
Right.
You have to be.
Yeah, we had it last year. The worst one was in October because it was the day we were coming back from Lambtown. That was the Santa Rosa fire. Was last year. And then a couple of summers before that, there was a big one in Big Sur that was causing us a lot of air quality trouble. I would say in the last 5 years, it's happened at least 3 times. Okay, well, that's all depressing.
Right. It's depressing. Okay, so on a positive note, now I'm going to change that because several people at the last episode that we recorded together, I talked about my son Ben going to Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
So an update. He made it to Anchorage in 6 days, and I think when we recorded before, he had not arrived yet. I think he was on his way.
No, he was staying in the hangar because you talked about that.
So he was, yeah. Mm-hmm. So he's been hanging out in the hangar and they've gone up in the plane a couple of times, and then he's been doing lots and lots of rock climbing. There's a gym nearby that he's been going to, that a rock climbing gym, and then he's gone out into the real world to rock climb, and then lots of hiking. And he did call to tell me that he had an overnight backpacking trip. And I just have to say that Alaska is spectacularly gorgeous. The pictures he's sending is so beautiful.
Yeah, I've seen some of his videos on Instagram.
So really, really very cool. Great adventure, and it just makes me want to go to Alaska and hike. Because it really is gorgeous. And, but he is planning now on coming back next week. He's going to head out. And I remember the last episode I had asked for how do you get him back on the ferry? People have been great. I've got a lot of people have messaged me and, about how to do the ferry, and I have to laugh because it is not easy. It's just lots of, and then what I've learned is not all of the ferries run like every day, or, you might have to wait 24 hours for the next ferry. And so he's done some talking about it and research into it and talked to people. And then he finally, then he said, well, I think he decided he was just going to ship the motorcycle back and fly home. And then I got word that now the plan is he's just going to ride back. He's going to ride his motorcycle back.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Highway back to Seattle. And the reason I think he's doing this is the trip northbound. He did it in 6 days. And the last day he was on the road 12 hours. So he was having 300, 400, 500 mile days. and did it pretty quickly. Just basically the whole time was just sitting on the motorcycle. So he said this time, so I think because he's feeling more confident and assured about riding the motorcycle those distances, finding a motel, finding a campground, and taking care of himself on the road, that he decided he's going to come back the same, just reverse the route and not book anything, just find motels along the way and campsites and take more time. Just do maybe 200 miles or 150 miles and then stop and explore and do hiking and just take his time, because he really pushed it on the way up, because I think he was nervous and he just wanted to get to his destination.
Right.
You know? And now, having had this time on his own, he's feeling more confident.
Oh, that's good.
Think, so.
That'll be really fun. He'll enjoy that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the update on Ben. And I had one listener that contacted me and even offered a place just to crash and do laundry and get a meal and whatnot. So the listeners have been really,
that's great.
Really nice and willing to offer, information and laundry facilities.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Well, that is really nice.
And then I have to, one last thing that's kind of funny is, and I was thinking of you, Kelly, because Ben is a skinny guy, he's a lightweight guy, tall, but thin. Even his motorcycle jacket is, even though it's a small size, or I don't know what size it is, it's kind of roomy. And so he said for the trip back, he wants to get warmer clothing. He wants to get a sweater. And he said, should I get a wool sweater? And I said, yeah, definitely get a wool sweater. So he's been going to the Goodwill, like his mother. He said they have, I have to pronounce it the correct way, Kelly.
Cowichan.
No, Cowichan sweaters. She's found some at the Goodwill. And I said, well, just buy one then buy one of those. So he then texted me a picture of a sweater he found. He said he'd gone there and he couldn't find, they were gone. The sweaters that he had been looking at before were gone. But he said, I found another. He said, but it doesn't say what it is, like what the fiber content is. So he sent me a picture of the label and it says 100% alpaca. I said, well,
that would be warm.
Not wool, but it will be very warm. I said, well, buy it. So he bought the alpaca sweater. And so that's what he's going to wear for the trip down under his jacket. So yeah. So little fiber related news about Alaska. Anyway.
Cool.
Anyway, on to our other business then.
You'll have to tell us what you're working on, because I'm not working on anything.
I'm sitting here working on the Iba by, is it Bonne Marie Burns? Or
I've heard people say her name, Bonne Marie Burns.
Bonne Marie Burns. Anyway, lovely sweater. I really enjoy working on it, and I'm at that point where it has to be a certain length, and I think maybe 2 more rows, and then I want to measure it again, and then I will start the ribbing on that sweater.
You made good progress.
I've been working on this pretty much all the time. I've been doing, and it's on size 8s. Mm-hmm. It's worsted Aran weight. I think it's worsted weight yarn. And so it's going pretty quickly. And it's also, once I got past keeping track of the shaping or the increases for the sleeves and the front band, the neckline, and the increases for the body, you can memorize the pattern super easy. It's very easy. So anyway, I'm making pretty good progress on that. But I have to tell you, I did make a mistake. And I was like looking at it going, okay, that looks really weird. And then I realized the sweater has the collar and the front band are knit at the same time so it's just, you don't go back and pick up stitches and knit the front band. It's actually just part of the body. But there's a purl stitch that separates the ribbing of the front of the band and the rest of the band. And I realized probably 60 rows back, I had put a knit stitch instead of a purl, didn't catch it, and I kept knitting the purl stitch all the way up. But you know what I did, Kelly?
You dropped back and you picked it back up. Yes, I did.
Mm-hmm. And it was just one stitch, but 60 rows back. I didn't put a needle in. I just put in a line of just cotton not thread, but wool, cotton that you use for pot holders, that kind of weight. And I just put that in there and tied a knot in it so it wouldn't slide out. And then I just put the stitches on the top on a holder and then just drop that one stitch all the way back. And I fixed it in about, 20, 30 minutes. It went really quickly because I didn't have to then like re-knit it. I just used a crochet hook to put all those stitches back.
Because your last one was like about 5 or 6 stitches that you dropped back.
Yeah.
So I
think it was 8,
8 stitches. Yeah. So it was really like re-knitting all those stitches.
So I just want to...
Marsha's the master of correcting mistakes.
Well, I want to put it out there that we said this the other time, that it's, try this first because it may work. If it doesn't work, you can rip it back. But it's a first try option, and it worked really well. So I just wanted to mention that. So I'm making really good progress on that. And then in between, I'm just working on the Elinya shawl I've been working on forever, since March, by Amba O'Brien. And it's just a garter stitch shawl. It's just, 2 rows of garter stitch. So it's just stripes. And I just working on that because it's kind of mindless. I went and had dinner with a friend last night and I brought that and worked on it because it's mindless,
And you're using pink?
I am the kind of a pinky coral color. It's actually called Flamingo from Jorstad Creek. And then from Hazel Knits, I'm using kind of a gray brown color. And I don't remember that. I'm pulling out my little tag.
Oh, I have it here.
Sassafras.
Yes. Okay. No, that's going to be really pretty. It reminds me of it's not your usual color choice. It reminds me of Good and Plenty.
Oh, that's true.
No, that's going to be really pretty. I know you've talked about this one before, but I never actually went and looked carefully at the project page or what it was going to look like when it was done, or even really registered that it was not your normal color, your normal color choices. But I like it.
Well, and I noticed today, because when I was sitting down to make my notes about what I wanted to say, I go and look at my Ravelry page, and I noticed I've not updated that photograph since I had maybe 10 rows.
Right,
it's
so small.
So I need to, after we finish recording, I should probably go and take a photograph of what I have, because I believe, I don't have the pattern right here in front of me, but I believe you have to do I think it's 95. I may be wrong on that, but like 95, 98, garter stitch stripes. And I think when I counted the other day, I think I was at like number 70 or something. So I'm getting close, but
you're close in rows, but the rows are getting bigger.
Yeah. So, anyway, but it is, as I say, it's just sort of my mindless knitting, card knitting and that kind of thing. So, and that's it for me. What about you?
Well, I have absolutely 0 whips, which we talked about last time. And I actually wanted to start something, but things got kind of busy and I haven't had a chance to. So I've just been sitting here with no whips. None. But then I did cast on a bear.
I'm just going to interrupt to ask, how can you not have something to do with your hands?
I haven't had any time.
Oh, okay.
We have the house that we're trying to get rented out. So my hands have been typing emails to people and making phone calls to people and getting applications and all that kind of stuff together. So yeah, my hands have been busy doing other things, preparing for class and then because we're now in the second week of school, but all last week. It's really strange because my course load is not even full yet because I have one class that doesn't even start until the 27th. But I was coming home and like in bed by 7:00. I mean, like have dinner, do the dishes, go to bed because it's just so much. I think for me, it's a lot of interaction and it's a lot of being on. When you're meeting when you're meeting new classes for the first time and. teaching to a group of people that you don't know yet. So it was a lot of being on. And then so when I came home, it was like, okay, I need to do this stuff for getting the house rented, and then I have to go to bed. So it hasn't been as difficult as I thought, but I did need a project for while I was sitting waiting for people to show up and see the house. And so I had started a bear's head, a knitted head, top down a while ago, and it's just sitting in my bag because I decided I didn't want to do it, a knitted one. So I picked that back up and I made a bear out of, actually I said I was going to just get rid of it, but I made it out of the yarn that I used for the summer sleeveless top, that Valley yarns. It's a combination of acrylic and cotton. Anyway, I had
Good thing you didn't get rid of it.
No, I had I had too much. It was like 2 skeins and a half left. And so I decided to just put it in my bear stash. I haven't been any place to get rid of it, and I wasn't going to throw it away. So I put it in my bear stash, and I've been using it. And so this is a beach bear. Bathing suit, towel, little bucket with a shovel in it. It's my 3rd bear for the summer. And my 5th bear for the year, because I'm entering into the 2 knitlet chicks knit along. So I started it, finished it within a few days.
Okay,
because they're pretty fast. But
I saw your picture on Instagram, and the bear's very cute.
Oh, thanks. It was fun.
Yeah.
I prefer crocheting them, but it's kind of fun to change it up every once in a while and do something different.
Why do you prefer crocheting over knitting them?
It's faster. It's also less fiddly. To me, knitting them, so the head's not bad. You have to do magic loop, which I don't like that much. I'm not a big fan of magic loop. So, you're magic looping. But when you're doing the head and the body, it's not so bad because you have a lot of stitches. But then when you get to the end of the body, now you're doing legs. And so now the legs are on half as many stitches. So that's a tiny little circumference. And it's kind of a pain. And at the same time that you're doing one leg, the other leg is on waste yarn. And so that, or a holder. And so that's kind of in the way. And then what I did was I picked up stitches to do the arms. And then that's the same thing. You're picking up stitches to do the arms, and it's this tiny little circumference. So crochet is faster and less fiddly. Yeah. I think it's less fiddly. Yeah. So anyway, that's done. But I have some plans, some big plans, and I have been swatching. I already swatched for the sweater I want to make out of the coned cashmere yarn, and I've washed the swatch and everything, and I have 24 stitches per inch. I have my gauge already for that. But I was swatching yesterday for something called, and I don't know if you pronounce it filet crochet or fillet crochet. But it's a crochet technique that makes mesh, like little squares. Okay. And the word, I think it's a French word, so I would say filet, like like a filet steak. It's spelled that way. So it means, in French, I believe it means net. And so it was, it's kind of like making a net. And then what you do is some of the little squares are filled in and some of the little squares are open, and that makes a design. Okay. So if you think of a square grid of crochet stitches.
Oh, okay. I'm looking. So while you're talking, I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm looking this up on my iPad. And it sort of reminds me, oh, you look at this. It reminds me of that. Yes, I've seen this before. I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Yes. And it kind of reminds me of that tablecloth I gave you.
Yeah. One of the tablecloths is, I think, filet crochet. And then one of them is not crochet. It's like a netting technique. It actually is netting. It actually is filet, I think, is what it's called. Not filet crochet, but just filet. Okay. Okay. So then you fill in the little squares in the mesh. at the same time that you're crocheting it, you're filling in the little squares in some and not in others. So what I'm going to be making is, do you know what Papel Picado is?
No.
So
I have to look that up now too.
So it's a Mexican tradition of paper, thin paper, like tissue paper. And so it has all these little holes. And it's kind of like I grew up, when I grew up, we made snowflakes in wintertime. You know, cut little snowflakes, cut little holes. But instead it's a sheet.
I'm interrupting it. I'm interrupting again because I keep interrupting, but I'm on my iPad looking it up, and they make like little banners out of them.
Yes.
Like they put them on. Okay, yes, I do know what this is.
So they're like rectangular, and there are all these little cutout holes that make designs, and they're for Halloween, or Day of the Dead, which is right after Halloween, Dia de los Muertos. And they have all kinds of designs, skeletons, and all sorts of things. So, and there are traditional designs that go into them. And, you know, you can make them with all kinds of things, but there are traditional ones. So there's a pattern on Ravelry for making these. And so that's what I'm practicing for, is to be able to make this. And the reason I'm swatching is because I want to make sure that with the yarn I'm using, which is size 10 crochet thread, and the needle or hook size that I'm using, once I wash it, that it actually does look like the squares are filled in, and not just a little less open area of mesh. Because right now it just looks like a little less open area of mesh. And so I have to wash it and see what happens, if it fills in, or do I need a smaller crochet hook?
Okay, well that's very cool.
And the design is a skeleton head of the one I'm doing, but you can make up any design you want, because you just take a grid of graph paper and make a design by filling in squares. So I'm going to make the skeleton. I think I'll probably end up making more than one skeleton head, skull, and then I might try to see if I can make some of my own.
Well, it might be kind of cool to make them like those paper. They're all different bright colors, and then different patterns in different bright colors, and then string them all together. My ultimate goal would be to have enough that I could string them, because this is the way they string them, diagonally across the dining room. Oh, we have the chandelier in the way, but that's the idea, is, you know, diagonally and then like an X across the dining room. And I think that would be really fun. Yeah.
So,
no.
Or maybe in the entryway. But I'm going to start with one.
Because that would be quite a few to make out to go diagonally across your dining room, because your dining room is sizable, you know. And
they're not very big. They're maybe they're like the size of an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. Typically, maybe a little bit bigger. I've seen some that are a little bit bigger too. But yeah, I always tease Aunt Betty because she gets a pattern and she gets excited about it, and before she's even made the pattern, she's already buying enough yarn to make one for everybody she knows. And then she makes the first one and doesn't really like it that much, and is, you know, then it's like she's committed to making all of these. So I'm not making any kind of commitments about how many of these I'll make, but I wanted to try it. I thought it would be fun. So, and that's
very cool.
So that's what I'm learning to do, and it's a crochet pattern. And then I also have a knitting pattern that I'm thinking of doing. I've been on a search for a cardigan, and I have to say, I think cardigans are not trending anymore. When I look at the Ravelry pattern page, almost all the sweaters in the hot right now, you know, the top 20 or whatever that you can look at, they're all pullovers. It used to be like everything was a cardigan. Everybody was making cardigans, and now it seems like everybody's making pullovers. But I'm going to make a cardigan. And
you're gonna buck the trend.
I am, yes, because I have this cone. We talked about this in the last episode. I have this cone of cashmere yarn that's a fingering weight, It's 1,000 yards. And then I have about 500 yards of a sport weight. It's that Chickadee, Quince & Company Chickadee. And so I want to make a cardigan with that. And I need a cardigan that I can do a stripe kind of pattern. So, that lets out things like cables and lace. And so lots of them are eliminated for that reason. I didn't really want anything that buttoned. I'm not in the mood for a button band and buttonholes and buttons and all that. So I've been looking, and I wanted something like the featherweight. And Boston Jen messaged me and said I should take a look at one called Brise, Brise. I looked at that one as a possibility. She said it has a much better. It's also a Hanafitic pattern, like the featherweight is, but it has a lot bigger shoulder. A lot more fabric over the shoulder, and it's cute. I did like it. I looked at that pattern. It's an open front. It's got kind of the waterfall front a little bit. And I thought, well, maybe that would be good. It actually was made with a Quince & Company yarn, a linen yarn, which would be really nice. But it's short sleeved. Of course, I could make it longer sleeved. But I was having trouble figuring out exactly where I might put striping. I might make that one in a different yarn, maybe out of some of my coned linen, because it really does look like it would be a nice sweater. The shape of it is a nice shape for linen. It has a kind of a wide collar and then just straight fronts, and it just rolls. Everything rolls. All the edges roll, which I know you don't like that edging, but it works with this particular sweater. It works well. But I'm not going to use that pattern for my cashmere yarn. I found a different one, and it was in the hot right now just the other day. It's the running water sweater. And let me just go to the details here. It's Claudia Eisenkolb, and it was published in Himawari Knits. And it actually calls for a sport weight, but I think I can make it work. The gauge is 1 stitch off from my gauge. And it's also reverse stockinette, which I'm not going to do. I'm going to do it in stockinette, I think.
Okay.
And
I'm looking it up here.
Although the back has a detail that I like, so maybe I need to rethink that, not doing reverse stockinette. No, the back is just ribbing, so I could do regular, front side stockinette and the ribbing. Has a ribbed collar band. It has long sleeves with cuffs, which I won't do because I don't have enough yarn. And it has pockets, which I won't do. Mostly because if I have pockets, I'll put stuff in them, like my work keys or my phone, and then my sweater will get all stretched out.
Yeah.
I can't be disciplined enough to not put anything heavier than Kleenex in my pocket. So, and when you put Kleenex in your pocket, then you get a big lump in your sweater, and that's not attractive either. So I'm sort of off pockets in sweaters.
Well, and I sometimes, not always, but I sometimes don't think they can look bulky sometimes.
Yeah.
Like it puts more bulk around your hips, kind of.
Right.
I don't know. It depends upon the sweater.
The sweater,
every sweater's
yeah.
different.
I have a sweater that I keep at work that's a commercially made sweater that has pockets. And first of all, I stuck my keys in there enough that I made a hole in the pocket. So that's, one reason I know I don't want pockets in my sweater. And then also, when I do have something in my pocket, even if it's like a piece of Kleenex, because the extra bulk of the fabric, it's a very frumpy looking sweater. It's not attractive, but it's nice to have in my office in case my office is too cold.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is the sweater that I'm planning for. I got the pattern already. I didn't put it in my queue yet, but I'm going to. I really like the way the shoulders are in this sweater, and it'll be interesting to see how they're made, because there's just a nice line around the set-in. They look like set-in sleeve. They look like set-in sleeves, but they're not, because it's not seamed. So anyway, I haven't looked at the pattern yet, but that's my plan. And then I'm going to use my contrasting color somewhere on the forearms of the sleeves in some way. Striping similar to the Funky Grandpa striping, maybe, only all one color.
Yeah.
And then I'll have that contrast color also somehow in that collar band, neck band, front band thing that goes around. That's my thought.
Yeah.
And then I'm looking to see about the bottom of the sweater. I don't know. I can't really tell what's happening at the bottom of the sweater. So it may be that I'll do depending on how much yarn I have, I may put something at the bottom of the sweater as well. So, and it's top down. That was another thing. Some of the other patterns, like Flaming June, that I was thinking of, is a bottom up sweater.
Yeah, top down, you can sort of adjust it and change your mind as you.
Yeah, and when you're not sure you're going to have quite enough yarn, and you're going to have to make adjustments, bottom up is not a good idea. Oh, I ran out of yarn. I can't make my shoulders. Oh, well, I'll just have a sweater with no shoulders. No, that's not going to work. So that's what I'm planning. Papel Picado and Running Water. Those are my two right on the runway projects. And then, of course, I also want to do some practicing with the crochet so I can do that Karoo vintage knit along. But I don't have yarn for that yet. I need to think
now,
more.
Remind me again, this is the one that's that Afghan with all of the different,
And it's got really interesting crochet stitches that I don't know how to do. So I have to learn some crochet stitches before I do it.
Well, and my question to you is, do you have to buy all the yarn at once, or are you just going to try and do this with scraps, or are you?
I don't have enough scraps. And the problem with scraps that I've discovered doing baby blankets with scraps is if you're going from the center out, you want it, if you want it to look like it harmonizes, you can't use up everything you have at the beginning. You have to still have some more of that for the end, right? You want the yarns distributed, at least a few of the yarns kind of distributed from the center all the way out. And as you know, with the shawl you're working on, the further out you get, the more yarn it takes. And so at that point, you're not talking about scraps anymore or leftovers. You're talking about whole skeins. So I need to buy some yarn. I don't necessarily need to buy it all at once, but I need to make some decisions about color. And it's a mystery knit along, but I think they're already on like week 6 or 7. Or clue 6 or 7, and I don't think it's done yet. But so I kind of have seen how it's progressed, and so I know, like, if you just are looking at the center, you wouldn't know which of those colors in the center is the color that you are going to want to continue. But now that I can see a bunch of people's projects, I can see, oh, okay, this part will be a contrasting color, and this part actually is going to turn out to be like the main color of the body of the Afghan. So I wouldn't necessarily have to buy all the contrast colors all at once. I can kind of pick and choose as I'm going along. But I need to think about what I want to be the main color, so then I know what contrasts I might want.
Yeah.
So lots more thought has to go into that before I'm actually ready. But meanwhile, I think I'm going to practice those why can I not say crochet stitches today? I need to practice the center part and get used to the stitches. And I'm going to make pot holders with scraps.
Okay.
I have cotton scraps, and I think I'm going to use some of my cotton yarn scraps to make pot holders to practice some of the stitches from the center. So that's lots of sort of preparation stuff going on.
Yeah. Well, it sounds exciting.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to have no whips and be thinking about all the stuff I could start.
Oh, yeah. And then the problem is to focus on which ones you're going to start. You get there's so many ideas I have that it's difficult then for me to figure out which one I'm going to start.
Yeah.
You know? So,
well, and I have to say that is one of the reasons that one of the things that adds to the reason I haven't started anything in 2 weeks. You know, is because there's a lot to think about. And so then I just grabbed a bear. It was easier.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting. Well, Kelly, all of your projects makes me think that you have to learn some new things.
Yeah.
So this is a segue into our next knit along.
Yes, it's perfect.
Yes. So let's talk about it.
All right. So, and also I'm back in school, right? It's fall and people are going back to school. So we're going to be having a school days knit along, crochet along. And the idea is that you can enter a project that is something you have to learn. So, for example, if I were able to enter, I could enter the Papel Picado because I have to learn to do filet crochet. Or I could enter the Karoo Vintage Mystery Knit Along blanket because I have to learn all those crochet stitches that I don't already know.
Right.
Puffs and dots and very interesting things. So I have some things to learn, and those two projects would then be eligible for the knit along. And I think you have something that would be eligible too if you were going to enter.
Yes. Well, I can do anything I want, Kelly. I was about to ask, is it okay to take one failed participation in a knit along and carry it over to another one?
Yes. The answer is yes.
Yes, I can do anything I want. But
especially if that failure is due to needing to learn something, right?
Learn something, yes. So my failed knit along was when we did the sheep thrills knit along. We had to knit something that was sheep related other than it was wool yarn. So I was going to make my plan, and I bought yarn for anything, was to make a tea cozy that had sheep on it, and on this looked like it was on a carousel or something. And I did pretty good, but I realized when I got halfway done that my color work was too tight. I think a common problem that people have when they first started doing color work. And so I realized it was never going to fit over the tea kettle because it wouldn't stretch enough.
Right.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up that project again that, I said tea kettle, I meant teapot, but I'm going to pick up that project again and start that. And I think what I'm going to do is take a class. Either I'll go into, if I can find a class at a yarn shop near me, I'll do that and take a class on color work, or I'm sure they have something on Craftsy, and take a color work class to understand how to not have a gap, between the stitches, but also get enough stretch in there so I can actually fit my tea cozy over my teapot. So that's what I'm going to do.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's good. So yeah, that I think just about anybody has something they've been wanting to learn, something they need to go watch a tutorial about, or Craftsy class that they bought and it's been sitting in their library, or, a book that they have that they wanted to dig into. So yeah, if you have something that you need to learn and that's related to a project that you're going to be working on, you can enter our knit along, crochet along. I guess it could even be a weave along. Yeah,
it can be anything.
Spin along. Yeah. Knitting, crochet, weaving, spinning. So it's a learn along.
Yeah, a learn along. So, and Kelly, we've decided it's going to start when this episode airs.
Now.
right now.
When the episode airs, it will start retroactive to Wednesday.
It'll run through November 30th.
Yes. So all the way through the end of November. So that's a good long time to be working on this and whatever it is you need to learn. And then we'll have a finished object thread. We'll have a chat thread, and then we'll draw prizes from the finished object thread on December 5th. Yeah, let's say December 5th, because that's a Wednesday. That's when we usually record. So I'll close the thread when we record that first week of December.
Okay.
So just to be safe, you should probably try to get it in like within the first couple of days of December. But we usually record on Wednesday. So
yeah.
No earlier than Wednesday. We don't record earlier than Wednesday. If we do record different than Wednesday, it's usually later. So
yeah.
All right. So I'm excited about this. I think it'll be fun. And I have some things to learn.
Yeah, I do too. So
I'm pretty sure everyone else does too. So join us.
Yes. So, and then Kelly, do you have anything else to talk about?
I have a couple of things.
Okay.
First of all, I need to just cheer and brag and yell and scream from the rooftops that my Cowichan sweater.
Yes.
I entered it in the fair, and we had the judging of the fleeces and the handcrafts. And so I entered 2 items. I entered my Cowichan sweater, which last year I entered it as a basket of yarn. And then this year I entered it as the finished sweater. And then I also entered a skein of yarn, a skein of sock yarn made out of, the wool was baby doll Southdown. It's the roving that I bought at the spinning St. Distaff's Day in January when I was up with you.
Oh, right.
From, Socked-in Farm. Okay. Sock as in SAUK. Anyway, so I spun that into a 3-ply sock yarn.
Okay.
Entered that, got second place. And then I got first place on my sweater.
That's very cool.
And then they take all the first place items that are either dyed by the spinner or not dyed at all. And they put all those first place items together and they select the best in show. And I got best in show.
Yay.
That was so exciting. I really did not expect it. I really didn't expect it. I think partly it was because of it had something to do with the information that I put in my little entry. That helped, that it was kind of thematic. The judge spent about, I would say, a good 7 to 10 minutes talking to the audience about just Cowichan sweaters in general and the tradition and all of that as a result of looking at my piece. And so that, that had to, I would think that would weigh in her decision.
So I have 2 questions about this. First of all, how does it feel having something of yours judged? How does it feel? Like,
it's interesting because you're sitting in the audience and other people know it's yours. Some people knew it was mine, not everybody. But some people already knew it was mine. And for a lot of the people, they work on projects with other people in the guild around who were there at the judging. So, people know whose project is whose to a certain extent. But the judge doesn't know. And then they talk about it the same way they talk about the fleeces. They talk about what's good. And if the judging is good, you get a lot of good constructive criticism. But criticism is hard, right? It's a difficult thing for people to listen to. So it's a little nerve-wracking because you want constructive criticism, but it's also a little bit difficult to hear criticism.
Yeah.
And in public. So,
So you have a sense now of what it feels like to be a grower and having your fleece judged. You know,
yeah, it's the same. It's exactly the same process where they're talking. The judge is talking about the qualities, and then the issues with the project, and ideally, you're not going to get feedback that just says, "Oh, this is fabulous," because that's not helpful.
Right.
I mean, it makes you feel good, but it's not the reason you're there.
Right.
So you want that feedback, but at the same time, it's a little, And I'm probably more experienced at getting that kind of feedback than a lot of people are, because I get evaluated by my students. I mean, not in a public space.
Right.
Well, that sometimes happens too, but the way it's supposed to work.
You don't get a ribbon. Oh, you get third place.
Right.
You get sixth place.
Yes.
Oh, you're so great. You get first place.
So, I do have that experience of reading constructive criticism often. I mean, in my career, 30 years of teaching, I've read a lot of constructive criticism from students. And mostly it is constructive. But it's hard. I take my evaluations and I go sit in my office and I close the door of my office and then I sit there for a minute and get myself in the right mental framework to not be defensive. And then, so yeah, I mean, I have practice at that, but still I was nervous. Yeah.
And then my other question, and this might actually be something that we could just talk about in another podcast, but about getting your project ready to show it.
Yeah.
So, if it's hand spun, about the fiber, and if you having done this now last year with your yarn and this year with the sweater. So is that something you want to talk about now, or is that something that would be better for another podcast?
I think we could actually do an episode where we talked about that. And Mary, Knit Admin, and Sequoia Shelley, they both also had some big wins at the fair.
Okay.
And I would like to maybe talk with them too, if they have any tips, and put together some, like, based on what I've seen in the judging, what would be my tips for, not just tips for getting a ribbon, but like, how do you, how do you present? Like, I rewound my skein of yarn, right? I mean, I had already rewound it, but it had been sitting for a while. So before the fair, I rewound it again, those kinds of things.
Well, yeah. And I would be interested in information you have, or Knit Admin, or, because I'm planning on spinning some yarn for the Black Sheep Gathering and entering that in next year.
Yeah.
Because I bought a fleece a couple years ago, and I thought it'd be really kind of fun to set that as a goal, is to spin a skein of that and enter it. So that's kind of my informal goal. So I'd be interested in any tips and tech, to get a leg up.
Yeah. So maybe
the competition.
Right.
The
exactly.
competition.
Well, like I said, I do think some of the things I said in my entry, when you describe the item, is helpful. Plus, there's other things that you might not even know, like attach a piece of the fiber or a bit of the yarn, or a swatch. If you do a skein of yarn, knit a swatch with it and attach the swatch. So there's definitely some things that you wouldn't necessarily know if you were first time entering, that, that it was even required, or that other people did it. So I'm thinking that we could do an episode maybe sometime in January, and then maybe even have a knit along.
Okay. So let's stop talking about it, so we have some content for the next
True.
When we actually do talk about it.
True. Yeah. Okay. And maybe, and I'm serious. Maybe we should have a long, just everybody who's getting ready for the fair, all working together on their projects. Mm-hmm. I know there was the Unraveling podcast with Greg and Joey. They used to do that. I don't know if they'll still do it now because it's just Knitting Daddy, Greg, who is still, of the two of them, hosting that podcast. But I always thought that was a good idea. Maybe we could do something similar. Yeah. Kind of give each other moral support. That sounds good.
But again, congratulations on the big win.
Oh, thank you.
Your sweater's beautiful, and a lot of work went into it, and it turned out great. And yeah, it's very cool to win.
I have to say, I love it. And it looks so good. At the fair, they put it on the Ann's Web, the people who set up the room. And I was there one day helping to set up the fleeces, a couple of days. But I wasn't setting up the handcraft items, but they've got it on a dress form with a piece of fabric wrapped around underneath like a skirt and another little piece of fabric in the collar, like a, I don't know, like a
ascot.
Exactly. That's the word I'm looking for. And she just looks so official, not anything like me at the campsite.
Yes, I say, did you air it out before you entered it?
Yes, I did.
So no campfire smoke on it?
No campfire smoke on it when it was entered. Yes. That's another tip. So yeah. That was really fun, and I was really excited.
Yeah, very cool. So. Okay. So anything else?
Yes, I have some new yarn. Do you have something before I go on and talk more?
Can you tell? I'm like, just make sure.
Are you done yet? When are you leaving?
No, go ahead and finish. We'll go and talk about your yarn now.
Okay. So I think it was the last episode where I talked about...
I'm sorry, I'm still laughing.
That's okay. Sally Fox's farm that was threatened by the wildfires, and that, if you wanted to help with some of the expenses that she had put out information, and I thought a good way to help would be for you to buy something from her shop or donate. So I went to her shop and I did buy something, and I bought, I'll tell you what I bought. I bought 2 pounds of wheat. I thought I was buying wheat flour.
Oh, but you got just the wheat? Oh, so you have to grind it, huh?
Well, I'm not sure if I'm going to grind it or if I'm going to use it as wheat berries. I think I might just use it as wheat berries. I have a recipe for a salad that takes wheat berries, and then I could make bread with wheat berries. I could sprout them and do sprouted wheat berry bread. And so I have some ideas, but yeah, I think I clicked in the wrong place. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I was interested in the wheat and wheat flour. And I might just go back on and order the flour too. But I also ordered yarn. I ordered a cone, Marsha.
Ooh.
A big cone. And I just wanted to mention about this cone. It's 10-2 cotton. It's really beautiful. It's called Sierra Sienna. It's a brown, kind of a reddish brown, clay brown, terracotta color. It's darker than the colors that I have, which also are running out. The colors that I have are from the late 90s, early 2000s. And I still have some left, but most of it I've used now. It's a 10-2 cotton, which means that in a pound, I'm not going to go through all the calculations of how I figured this out, but my 1 pound cone is about 4,200 yards. So you get quite a lot of yardage on a cone for $80. I thought that was a good deal. 4,200 yards is going to last me a long time. So that's
especially with because you're going to use this for weaving, right?
Yeah, this will be for weaving. I'm going to make more dishcloths. Dish towels, out of it. And I really like this weight. I weave with it it's 12 ends per inch is how I put it, because it's fairly fine. It's kind of more like a lace weight if you were comparing it to a knitting yarn. And I weave with it at 12 ends per inch, and then it shrinks up really nicely into a nice fabric. Those plaid those brown towels with the, there are different colors of brown stripes vertically, and then they have like a red band and a green band. And so those towels, I think you've seen them in my kitchen.
Yeah. And I'm actually looking at your Instagram post about them right now.
And they're just really soft and nice, and they wash up really well. I'm looking forward to making some more towels dish towels out of this cotton that I just bought. Organic cotton grown on her farm with cotton that she bred to be these colors. She has a big breeding program. So anyway, if you are interested in taking a look at it, I would really highly encourage it. Great yarn.
So now are you done, Kelly?
Yes.
No, I don't have anything all that important. I just had a couple things I wanted, just a little housekeeping. The last episode I talked about sort of goals, kind of a check-in, and I said I was gonna get more information and tell everybody what it is. And
you teased something.
The tease. I had a big tease last night, so it's not all that exciting, but I've decided to go back to training with Enzo and make the goal of entering into an agility competition.
Yay.
So I don't know which competition. I thought I would have an announcement today so I could put it out there. So if I say it out loud and I put it out to the world, I have to do it, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't have a competition yet that I'm planning on being in. But I'm starting tonight at 6:00. He has his first agility, going back to the training where we were going before for agility. And as Kelly, you and I talked about, it's where he's been doing obedience and agility and rally is, it's an indoor space. It's like in an office park kind of, or a retail, strip mall kind of.
Yeah. So
they have all the equipment, but they don't have the space between the equipment to actually, if you were going to do agility, when I've been looking at these competitions online. So I've been looking for some place near Seattle, and I found a couple places, but one's in Maple Valley, one's in, I believe, Auburn. And one of them I found that looked really nice, but on their Facebook page, it says that the place is up for sale. So I don't really want to start there.
Yeah.
So I think the issue I'm sort of finding is a place that has that much land, you have to be out quite a ways outside the city limits.
You have to go outside your 5-mile radius.
I have to go outside my 5-mile radius, significantly outside my 5-mile radius. So I'm in the process of looking for that, and I've also Ben had suggested I just look on Facebook, and I have found a couple groups. So they're just clubs or just a group of people who've decided to get together to practice together. So I need to reach out to them too to find out where they're located, because I don't know. So anyway,
that would be good.
I'm working on that. Yeah. And then I have two other little things. One is I had dinner last night with a friend, and she gave me a quote that I thought was I liked it a lot, and it's from a book. People may know this book. I don't know it, but listeners may know it. It's by the author Kyoko Mori, and the book is Yarn, Remembering the Way Home. And this quote from the book that my friend gave me is, and I'll read this, it says, "The folklore among knitters is that everything handmade should have at least one mistake, so an evil spirit will not become trapped in the maze of perfect stitches." I love that. The idea is that the mistake is a crack left open to let in the light. Mori goes on to testify about the evil spirit she wants to be free of. It's that little voice in my head that says, I won't even try this because it doesn't come naturally to me and I won't be very good at it. But this is why we make mistakes, so evil spirits will not be trapped in our beautiful knitting.
Yeah. Well, I don't have evil spirits then, because I make plenty of mistakes.
Yes, I don't have any in mine either. And then the other thing is just kind of funny. Now it'll be interesting to see how people react to this. Some people may think this is funny, and some people may not think this is funny. But my friend, another friend, she and her husband, it was their anniversary, and she asked if I would come over and babysit. And not that they're really babies anymore, but they're 9 and 11. But the 11-year-old said to me, I was sitting there knitting, and she said to me, whenever I see women knitting, I always think they must have lots of cats. So I have a couple thoughts. First of all, what's wrong with having lots of cats? That's my first thought. Who said that's bad, having lots of cats? And then, yeah, really. Is that a bad thing, having lots of cats? So maybe we need to dispel this myth that women who knit are
odd.
Well, odd. I mean, it sort of implies if you have lots of cats, you must be crazy. So, and odd and different. And so, come on, folks, let's snap out of it. We're fine. Yeah. So anyway, I just thought that was so funny that it was just said so innocently. And I don't have a cat.
I know, really. Funny. You don't even have one.
I don't even have one cat. Yeah. Well, anything else we need to talk about? Or?
I don't think so. I think that's about all. It's all the things on my list.
Okay. Well, we'll talk in a while.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening. To subscribe to the podcast, visit twoewesfiberadventures.com. We have links for iTunes, Google Play Music, YouTube, and others.
Join us on our adventures on Ravelry and Instagram. I am Better in Motion, and Kelly is 100 Projects.
Until next time, we're the Two Ewes,
doing our part for World Fleece.